It is 6:35. Welcome to the May 28, 2025 joint meeting of the Library Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and members of the public participating at the Arriaga Family Recreation Center in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and members of the public participating remotely. I would like to introduce the commissioners and staff present. From the Parks and Recreation Commission, we have, I believe, a new commissioner, Yangdan Chunyu. And Commissioner Kevin Dawkins is not able to be here tonight. I believe he might be listening remotely, but he's not participating. Vice Chair Joseph Grass. Chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, Juan Van Lee. Oh, hi. Commissioner Shilpa Patel, who I think is also a new commissioner, welcome. Commissioner Michelle Sherman. Commissioner Justin Van Buren is not with us at this time. He may join in a minute. And from the Library Commission, we have Commissioner Kim Crockett. Myself, Chair Michael Herrick. Commissioner Carol Orton. Commissioner Scott Schaefer is absent this evening. Commissioner Sarah Suspot. Commissioner Brian Westcott. And a new commissioner for the Library Commission, Commissioner Daniel Buell. Welcome. And the staff present includes Library and Community Services Director Sean Reinhardt, Library and Community Services Assistant Director Nick Shegda, Library and Community Services Supervisor Tricia Mullen, and running the meeting at the back is Management Analyst Ashley Walker. Ashley will be helping facilitate the meeting. Ashley, will you please take a moment and provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table. Please complete one and turn it in to staff before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of public commenters, the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment has arrived, staff will unmute you. With that, I'll return the meeting to the chair.
Okay, so this is a special joint meeting agenda, so we don't have public comment at the beginning. First is item C1, an overview of the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. Director Sean Reinhardt will make the presentation. We will take public comment after that and then open the item for commissioner questions and discussion.
Yes, thank you, Chair Herrick. So if everyone doesn't mind, since I'm running the slideshow from here, I think I'll remain seated during the presentation, but I think everyone can kind of see and hear. But if at any point, I might get up and point at things if that's needed. So this is hot off the presses, the city's proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget portal was just opened on the website about 30 minutes ago. So these two commissions are actually getting the very first look at the public budget portal. So I just want to navigate over to it. The budget is available on the city's website. There is a longish web address up here, but you can actually get there also by just going to menlopark.gov/budget. And that takes you to this page. Just quickly, I'll show that the information is there for the current year and some previous years. What we're going to focus on is the proposed budget. Now, the proposed budget is just that. It's a proposal. It's draft. The city council is having a workshop up tomorrow evening at 5:30 in city council chambers to review this for the whole city. They are scheduled to have a public hearing on the budget on Tuesday, June 10th. And then they're scheduled to adopt the budget on Tuesday, June 24th. They have to adopt the budget by July 1st each year. So if you click this link, I actually preloaded the tab just in case the internet went out on me. It takes you to this front page of the proposed budget. This year, there are some easier navigation tools up at the top. So what we are going to look at, focus on today is the Library Community Services Department. So you may have seen I navigated over to departments. And then in the drop down is library and community services. You can see there's lots of other tabs here, but I'm not going to focus on those. For today, the city council is going to see all that tomorrow. So just going to look through the library and community services department budget. It's basically, I'm just gonna kind of walk through, and I think what I'll do is just do a quick orientation for everybody, and then maybe at that point we can have time for like questions and discussion. But if at any point someone really feels like we need to stop so I can clarify something, please do, feel free. So, our tagline is healthy, safe places to learn, play, exercise, socialize, and thrive. Our department provides lifelong learning opportunities for people of all ages and abilities and lived experiences. We have an amazing team of skilled personnel. We use quite a few temporary personnel, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we also have an extraordinary core of community volunteers. I'll talk about all the different programs that our department encompasses in a moment. But I'll just kind of walk through some of the data that's here. So this first chart here is the proposed full-time equivalent employees. So these are full-time equivalent, are most of them are full-time, 40 hours per week. We do have a couple of part-time people, but like 2 half-time people equals 1 full-time equivalent for the purposes of these numbers. These are regular benefited members of the staff. In fiscal year 2026, we are proposing no change to that with 68.25 full-time equivalent. What's also shown here are the rolling past 5 years. So for example, in fiscal year 2022, the department had 64.35 full-time equivalents. Right now, we're at 68.25. I'll just note, I think there was some questions in past commission meetings, references to before the pandemic, the 2 departments, which are now combined, had 71.0 full-time equivalents in fiscal year 2020. So still a little bit less than pre-pandemic, but pretty close. Here's a breakdown of those full-time equivalents by budget divisions, which is the way we organize the budget. Is the library and community services department is series 500 in our budget numbering scheme. And there are different budget divisions, the 510 being folks who are focused on the senior center. 520 is for recreation and indoor, and so on down the list. New this year is we spent a little time explaining how we use temporary employees. Our department is a heavy user of temporary employees. They play a key role in our public services to the community. They are in pretty much every team in the department. Some of them are seasonally, like right now we're hiring for like summer camps, for example. We just need folks like that during the summer. And others are actually working year round. For example, in the library, we have a lot of temps. Our recreation centers also employ a lot of temps for like the front desk and weekend coverage, things like that. They are really intended to just be limited duration hourly workers. They generally don't work more than 18 hours per week or 980 hours per year. And there are some rules around that. And that's why those limitations are there. They're set by state law. Typically, they work 10 to 15 hours per week. Again, by comparison, full-time employees work 40 hours per week. So 1 FTE or full-time equivalent is 2,080 hours per year. So knowing those numbers kind of help to assess like what is the scope of the temporary employees as part of our like overall team of people. So for the 12-month period from April 2024 to April 2025, like, the last full month completed was April 30th. So full year, here's a breakdown by kind of major operating area of how we've been using temporary employees over the past years. As you can see in the library, there are about 22,741 hours worked by temporary employees. So if you divide that by 2,080, that works out to roughly 11 full-time equivalent employees worth of effort there. Similarly, recreation, you can see a similar number of 20,000 and some change. Our childcare, also pretty heavy users of temporary employees. That's mainly in the after-school program and the summer camps. The preschools don't use temps as much. LCS operations, which is like kind of the administration team, we have a few temp hours mainly to support community events. Those community events are managed through the administrative group. So you can see all told, the 62,000 and some change hours worked over the course of a year, that equates to roughly 30 full-time equivalent employees. So that's on top of the 68.25 kind of permanent employees. So really, the number of hours worked is roughly equivalent to 98 full-time employees. Because we have a lot of facilities to cover. Here's just a nice shot of one of our community events. This is the Halloween parade last year. The middle school led the charge there with their banner. And let's see, so just moving into the budget, many of you know this, but you can see here on the first column shows the indoor facilities that our department directly manages and staffs. Many of these facilities are open 7 days per week, year round. From the gymnasium next door to the rec center that we're in, the gymnastics center across the way. The Bellhaven Child Development Center is a preschool in the Bellhaven neighborhood. The Bellhaven Community Campus, many of you have heard about, it's 5 facilities in one, including the Bellhaven Library, Bellhaven Pool, the Bellhaven Youth Center, which is actually an after-school program, it's called the Youth Center, the Menlo Park Senior Center, and the Onetta Harris Community Center, which is like the recreation functions in the new building. And then, of course, Burgess Pool across the way here. Menlo Children's Center is the preschool on this campus, and then Menlo Park Library is the official name of the main library on the other side of the pond here. So a little more information about Bellhaven Community Campus. We've talked about that a lot in these commissions, so I won't dwell on that. It's a wonderful facility. It's been a year in operation. Couldn't be happier with it. And then new this year is really focusing in on our work in the parks. The city owns 14 parks of various types. So they're all kind of listed here. So that's kind of the scale of our operations as far as like what the public sort of interacts with. And that's why we are really grateful for having such a strong and robust team of people to staff all of that. There's a little more detail about each of like kind of the major functional areas. I'm not gonna like read all of that information, but at your leisure, please do feel free to have a look. Public libraries, indoor and outdoor recreation are major components of what we do. The preschool childcare is a big component of what we do, as is the school age, that's after school and summer camps. And then, of course, our senior center, which is really located at the Bellhaven Community Campus. Speaking of, there's another beautiful picture of our newest facility, the Bellhaven Community Campus. Some other information about the department, really some links to our strategic and master plans, important information there. How we are supported through volunteer efforts like civic involvement, these 2 commissions, our wonderful youth advisory committee. The library has its own teen advisory group as well. And some of our volunteer support, in particular through things like the Little Free Libraries. And we have 2 major charitable nonprofits that support primarily the library, Friends of Menlo Park Library and the Menlo Park Library Foundation. They were instrumental in providing donations for the furnishings and equipment in the new facility, as well as the library books. There are a number of highlights of the past year and a number of initiatives proposed for the new year. I will spend just a minute to talk about the highlights from the past year, fiscal year 24-25. In addition to achieving LEED Platinum certification for the new facility, we served over 8,600 freshly prepared lunches to seniors at the senior center. We circulated 439,000 and some change library books and media items. I'll point out that the Bellhaven Library tripled its usage. Now it was already kind of low on the old location, but in the new location, it went up about triple, which we were expecting was great. We registered 6,700 new recreation client accounts. We hosted thousands of drop-in basketball visits and volleyball visits. We taught, as you can see, hundreds of gymnastics classes, over 4,000 participants in that very popular program. We organized 19 large-scale community events. These are like the big outdoor events with almost 10,000 participants. The library has a very robust calendar of free community programs in the library, over 600 of them with 15,000 attendees. Those are almost entirely supported by Friends of Menlo Park Library. We couldn't do all of that without them. We also conducted some major community surveys and analyses. We're going to look at one later tonight. Overall, we just tried to be as efficient and effective as possible in response to community goals. We have a long history in Menlo Park, of course. Here's a picture of the main library. back in 1957-ish. It's kind of a cool picture that we wanted to throw in there. We've been an incorporated city for quite some time, and the library's been around for about 100 years. Now moving on to revenues. So here's kind of the standard charts that show in fiscal year 2026, we are projecting $6.4 million in revenue. Most of those are from charges for services, which is like recreation fees primarily. People pay to take classes, the gymnastics classes. 3.6 million is what we are projecting there. Intergovernmental revenue is primarily grants. We receive grants, for example, for the Child Care Center in Bellhaven. Transfer some other funds, this $1 million is a transfer that the city council authorized from a special developer fund to provide ongoing support for the Bellhaven Community Campus at $1 million per year for the next 5 years. So that's what that $1 million is. And this other revenue, $206,000, is our projected donations received from the Friends of Menlo Park Library and the Menlo Park Library Foundation. So again, 6.4 million in revenue. The next chart shows how that revenue has changed over the past 5 years. So the previous 4 years are the actual revenue, not the budgeted revenue. We project and budget, and then by the end of the year, sometimes what actually happens is a little different. But in fiscal year 2022, for example, there was 3.7 million in revenue. In the coming year, we're projecting 6.4 million. I do want to point out pretty significant change from the current fiscal year 2025 to next fiscal year. It's about $1 million decline in revenue, and that's primarily because we right-sized our projection for the child care grant, which is a long story, but suffice it to say, the city's not losing any revenue. We're just accounting for it in a more accurate way, because that grant is a reimbursement grant. So we've previously been budgeting like, well, here's the total possible amount we could receive, and instead we're actually putting in here what we project we're going to be able to get reimbursed based on the usage of that program. So it really is kind of a status quo budget. For example, the fees for services are not really going up very much. It's really that intergovernmental revenue that you see decline on the order of about $1 million because we made that accounting adjustment. Here's a breakdown of those revenues by like major categories: charges for services, intergovernmental revenue, transfers, and so forth. And you can kind of click through any of these. I won't do that now, but you can kind of see this is all dynamic and interactive. Any one of these reports too, you can click through here, click view report, and it's going to take you into spreadsheet heaven or spreadsheet the other place, depending on how much you like spreadsheets. This is new this year in response to some questions we received from commissioners, which we were grateful for. It's very helpful. So we put together this chart of revenues by functional area. It's a little more kind of common sense for the layperson. Our department is really kind of organized in those 3 major program areas: library, recreation, and childcare. Plus there is the administration of the department, which is called LCS operations. So in revenues, you can see that the bulk of the revenue comes from the recreation fees at 2.672 million right there, and from the child care grants and tuition fees that those families pay, about 2.5 million there. A lot of the unassigned grants and other revenues, we park it in the administration budget. So there's about $1 million projected there. That includes that $1 million transfer from the developer fund I mentioned earlier. So that's why that number is at 1 million. And then again, the library receives about $200,000 in donations from the Friends and the foundation. So there's that chart. That's revenues. Here's a picture of the beautiful Arriaga Family Recreation Center that we are sitting in right now. Moving on to expenses, kind of same concept, breaking it down by major spending category. Projecting $18.9 million in expenses department-wide. You can see a huge component of that are these top 3 numbers, which are related to personnel. The salaries and wages, the fringe benefits, and internal service charges are like IT, fleet, facilities maintenance, all those kind of things that require personnel from other departments to support. Same deal as with the revenue breakdown. You see kind of the past years. So you can see our expenses from 2022 have changed from 11.8 million to 18.9 million in the proposed new budget. Big component of that is opening the new Belhaven Community Campus, which is a major new facility that was closed during 2022, 2023, and even 2024 for almost the entire year. As well as just escalating personnel costs. Really, that's the two main drivers of that. You can see the same thing in this kind of bar chart form that's very clickable and filter it by category and so forth. I won't do all of that, but again, for folks who really want to dive in, that's all there. And then we also created this chart that again uses those functional areas. So you can see that from an expense perspective, it's roughly those four components are roughly equivalent, with recreation about 5.2 million in expenses, anticipated childcare 4.7 million, library 4.1 million, operations 3.9 million, but again, that includes things like the grant funding that comes in and is then spent out to the other divisions and the $1 million transfer. And then aquatics, we did break that out in its own category because we have 780,000 budgeted primarily for like maintenance of the two aquatic facilities. Those facilities are operated by a third-party operator, as I'm sure the Parks and Recreation Commission is well aware. So that's the breakdown of expenses by functional area. Speaking of aquatics, here's a nice view of the Burgess Pool. These are some youth swim lessons. And so that's like the overview of the budget portal. That concludes like the walkthrough and presentation. Thank you for enduring all of that. And looking forward to any questions or comments you might have. Or public comment.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item C1? We have one from Colleen. Alan, if you can hear us?
Hi, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, thank you. My name's Alan Bedwell, and my comments are focused on Bedwell Bayfront Park. Bedwell Bayfront Park was named after my father, who was city manager for Menlo Park for 30 years and led the creation of the park as a passive recreational open space park for the city and for the region to use. I've been a volunteer with Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park for 16 years, and I'm addressing you on the budget issue, though my comments also are also focused on the survey as well. So I'll keep it focused mostly on the budget, but then mention the survey, so you don't have to hear from me twice. First of all, for the budget, I urge you to seek funding to implement the master plan for the park, which you had on your presentation here that was completed in 2017, but it has not yet been implemented. And in fact, Meta donated over $1 million to help with the implementation of the master plan, but as far as I know, that funding has not been utilized. On the survey side, while the park survey that you conducted was helpful, it was basically sort of self-serve in some respects, meaning it doesn't really capture a cross-section of users as you would do through sort of a more active survey campaign. And I'm concerned that you're not capturing the cross-section of park users at the park. And a good sort of way to gauge the cross-section is to look at the comments and check-ins at the park on Facebook. And it'll give you a sense of just how diverse the user base is, culturally, economically, and generationally. And given the housing and office development in the area, the park has seen an explosion in use. But the city really has not implemented elements of the master plan that would provide basic improvements to the park to support passive recreation and avoidance of damage to the park with increased usage. And specifically in the master plan, the first phase needs to be implemented, and that is really to help protect the park from overuse. And that first phase is relatively simple. It's improving the trails for access to improve access and prevent erosion, hardening some of the overlooks for access and as well as prevention of erosion. Continued native planting to prevent erosion and maintain biodiversity of the park, and stabilizing the parking area to prevent erosion and water quality issues. In closing, the Friends would be happy to work with the commission and with city staff to move forward on implementation of the master plan for Bedwell Bayfront Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments about item C1? No public comment. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. With that, public comment is closed and we will open the item for commission discussion. Do we have? So, other than music, do we have some commissioners who would like to comment on item C1?
I have one question. In regards to your ask for the budget, how much did you have to concede, or was it equivalent to what you would thought you needed?
Yeah, great question. So the city was fortunate in that the voters of Menlo Park did pass a revenue measure last November. It was a transient occupancy tax increase, which that helped avert maybe a more difficult budget discussion by bringing some additional revenue to the city that had been lost when the utility users tax kind of was invalidated, for those of you who've been like following like taxes in Menlo Park. So we are sort of in a cautious kind of status quo budget this year. We try to focus on budgeting to meet the need that's there, and what the council directs. So this year it is pretty much a status quo budget. That's sort of like the intent. No big increases, no decreases unless there's a compelling reason. I'll just add, the Library and Community Services Department last year did have a pretty significant change. We added 3 new full-time equivalent employees to support the Belhaven Community Campus. The City Council authorized the $1 million transfer from the developer fund. There was a lot of additional budget expenditures added to support the ongoing operations of the campus. So that was kind of our last major change, and that was last year.
Thank you.
I have a question if no one else is speaking up. I just noticed when you're scrolling through very quickly, that the Library and Community Services Department has a master plan. It looks like Parks and Recreation does as well. And I know on the Library Commission, we've had sort of the strategic objectives in the plan, but is there a master, did I miss it in terms of the library specific? There's Library Commission, but.
Yeah, great question. So, I think you're referring to this left-hand column here. So, there's 3 kind of significant strategic and master plans. There's all kinds of other little program plans and project plans. But the ones that we called out here are the department-wide strategic plan, which I believe was last reviewed by the 2 commissions in January of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So about a year and a half ago, updated for 2024, 2026. Then the Parks and Recreation Facilities Master Plan dates is 2019, and the Bedwell Bayfront Park Master Plan, which the public commenter mentioned, it's from around that same time frame. I want to say 2018 or so. As far as the library specific strategic plan, it's kind of baked into the overall department strategic plan. We are intending to initiate another update to the strategic plan, because as you can see, it was really intended to be like a 2-year roadmap, and here we are already in the middle of 2025. It's been 15 months and some change, so closing in on 24 months. So that's something that we would like to talk to the commissions about, kind of wrapping up that process, probably at the tail end of summer. Into the fall, update that plan, and that would be an excellent time to kind of talk about, could we restructure the formatting of the plan, to maybe pull out some specific items that are of most interest. Thank you.
there any further commissioner discussion on item C1? Not any, we will move on, I believe, if okay, to item C2. Or, yeah, item C2 is a preview of the results from the Library, Recreation and Parks Community Survey. Staff will make a presentation and we will call for public comment and then open the item for commissioner questions and discussion.
Ashley, can you try the survey for me? Thank you.
Oh, I gotta go over here, Nick.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying. So this is a sort of a preliminary look at the results of the survey. We are planning to perhaps dive in a little more detail in the June meetings of the Library Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission, so that we can kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the comments. Where as the earlier commenter said, a lot of the good stuff is not in the broader responses to the survey questions, but in the individual responses that people write in. So some quick background, we've done some, sometimes feels like a lot of surveying recently, major surveys of, for childcare needs, for aquatics users. We did bring the draft of this current survey to both commissions in March. So the commission, the survey was open from the end of April to mid-May. We sent it out to 30,000 folks who are on our various email lists. Also through our newsletter, social media, banners on the web pages. We printed surveys because we have heard feedback that some folks are not as maybe we in this room are on our phones or computers all the time. There are folks who basically like to get it on paper, or maybe they just like to fill out the survey on paper. So we did have English and Spanish versions printed available in our facilities. And we got a really good response, 1,100 participants. So that's, I think, really good. 3/4 of which were self-identified as Menlo Park residents. And we got a lot of free text comments, 1,600, which takes a while to read all of them if you go through. I was finishing up today, and they are attached in the packet there, which is why the packet is a lowercase one, because there's a lot of free text responses. This has some starting to break down, some breakdown of the responses. So we hope to do a little bit more breakdown in June. But you can see percentages from different neighborhoods of Menlo Park. 2/3 of the respondents are considered longtime residents of Menlo Park, 10 years or more, and about half are 20 years or more residents. So these are not all new folks. And the survey respondents did skew older, with only a few percentages there under the age of 34, as far as households that have children in them. We have about 23% of the respondents. There's our middle school band again, one of those
I can
guys.
see some of the same photos, because they're so good, we had to show them twice.
So here's our preview, the main the Menlo Park Library, the library here on the Burgess campus, is the most visited indoor location across LCS. And the facility we're in right now, the Family Recreation Center, is the second most visited. Overall, very good customer satisfaction levels at all of our facilities. And pretty good satisfaction with the physical buildings and spaces. Though as we dive into those free text responses, you'll see that there is some room for improvement among some of the respondents, asking for some improvement in some of our facilities. So the sort of what people are wanting, a fitness center was rated the highest, a fitness center for the Burgess campus. As far as programming for the community services side of the house, health, wellness, yoga, and meditation were rated high in importance. and books in paper format, so not ebooks, audiobooks, or anything else, but paper books were rated very important, as well as quiet places to read and study in the libraries. Burgess Park is our most visited park. 78% of our visitors come here, or respondents come here a few times per year or more often. Nealon Park is the second most visited park, so that's kind of confirming what I think we all sort of know anecdotally. The satisfaction with the physical spaces is good, even though some people have never visited some of the parks. But then again, there are a lot of there's a lot of subtlety and variation in those three types of comments. So the survey is now over and we're starting to break down those results a little more that we're going to bring back to the June meetings of the Library Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission. So happy to hear about questions and comments you might have at this point, but also realize that this is not the end of the discussion, that we are going to dig into it a little further and maybe dig into things that you might ask us questions about or that you might be commenting about. And that's my presentation, so take it back to the chair.
Ashley, do we have public comment on this item?
We do have one public comment. Ms. McIntosh, you may address the commission.
Which is now, I'm not really on the voice.
You can step forward if you want to.
Oh, that's fine. Good evening, everyone, commissioners and everyone. My name is Chris McIntosh and I live in North Fair Oaks now after having spent 20 years in Menlo Park. And I've been a volunteer with Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park for 20 years almost. In this open space, I've seen it referred to as a jewel of Menlo Park. I think it would be, if we had captured all the park users, not just the Menlo Park residents, that would have rated pretty high as a most used, most visited park. And I think in this survey, the satisfaction level with it is kind of far down, if I interpret it correctly. I think there's a unique opportunity for Bedwell Bayfront Park to be a flagship destination in Menlo Park. It stands apart as a regional open space rather than a formal organized park. And with the proper enhancements, it's got huge potential to be a space that benefits human health, helping climate action and access to nature. Over the years, nature has come back with animals and birds and sharks and seals and all sorts of things. So tonight I wanted to ask what I can do to help you or help the city get the 2017 master plan implemented. These residents and adjacent neighborhoods spent an awful lot of time providing input, working towards the plan that was accepted by the city in November 2017. And as you know, it's used by people from not just from Menlo Park proper, from Friendly Acres, from Bellhaven, and yada. And now, as I think was pointed out on the other comment, there's all these apartment buildings, the hotels there. I know at least one hotel pitches the park as an amenity to its visitors. And so it would be nice to have it really put on Menlo Park's best space there. In the map, as I think you know, the master plan was broken down into 5-year segments, or into segments one at a time over 5 years. And really that first 5-year segment, as of now in 2025, has not been fully implemented. If you take the trails around, they're pretty broken up. In winter, parts of them are so muddy that if you had a stroller or you were a little wobbly walking and stuff, you wouldn't be able to do it. Now that's right into solid ruts. And the paved overlooks were also in the first 5 years, hasn't happened. We do have penalties, we have bike racks, that's great, We have some nicer, trash and recycling bins, although they're usually full. And then Grassroots Ecology is putting in a native planting by the trailhead, by the main parking lot. That's going to be lovely. And hopefully we can get more of that. Another thing would be, we'd love to have is the trail along Flood Slough, so people could walk along and see what life was in the slough around. Right now, you have to dodge all the parked cars that created these informal parking lots. And hope that you don't see somebody, as I have, with their hood up, 6 feet from the slough, working on their car engine. Close to Bay, remember that on every drain? Anyway, I just want to say that Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park, the organization I represent, would be really happy to work with you or the commission, city staff, whoever, to get this plan implemented. And if any of you would like to have a walk at the park, please get in touch with us. We'd love to help you. We'd love to show you around. Thank you.
Is there any other comment for item C2? I'm just checking the meeting.
Through the chair, Matt.
Yeah.
I just wanna, acknowledge, that, Ms. Mullen here, Tricia Mullen is our, supervisor of our recreation program, and I'd just like to invite, Ms. McIntosh to exchange contact information with Tricia before you go, so she can follow up on your comment. And then I also, did want to point out one piece of information about the survey, which is that one of the reasons we're gonna come back with some additional analysis is that there were a number of responses that basically indicated like don't know, no response, which kind of skews some of the other percentages, like around like how satisfied, for example, the users are with a particular location. So we have to do some math and work with spreadsheets to kind of pull out those no responses, and that'll come back next month. However, the figures we showed on the screen for like what sort of rated the highest and second highest, if you will, that's still accurate. But I just want to call out when you're looking through the survey packet, keep in mind that when there's like 83% of the responses are like don't know, no response. Really want to pull that out and redo the math to get a clearer picture from the people who did respond. How satisfied are they? Thank you.
Thanks for that extra presentation. With that, public comment is now closed, so we can open it up to item C2 to commission discussion. Is there discussion by commissioners?
Yeah, I guess just to address the comments from the caller as well as the person who presented. I think the Parks and Recreation Commission has been discussing Bedwell Bayfront. I think previously we discussed the hiring of a park ranger to kind of facilitate monitoring of activity there.
That's been renewed several times. It should, at one point it was ended for budget reasons and all that.
Right, yeah, so I think there will be a full-time ranger just going forward, even if that's, there's been some changes there. But also I think the master plan is something that I think that is worthwhile for the commission to consider. So I think we could add that to our calendar as an agenda item. That'll be, thank you for your comments. This is something I will be putting back on our radar and, as a focus. So thank you for that.
All echo, PRC chair, these comments, if you could CC me on some of the emails that go back and forth. I really enjoyed that whole day fun part, and I'd like to put some interest in that. I think we do have some space on the agenda coming up to discuss it in the next couple months.
Gotcha. I just want to add to the echo the comments myself. I've actually been at Bedwell a lot recently exploring the white wildlife and so on, and I appreciate you pointing out the issues with development of the park and I echo the other members of the Parks and Rec Commission, that it's something we should definitely keep an eye on. And look at the master plan and make sure things are moving forward. And especially might have a bit of a blind spot as far as surveying people outside of Menlo Park that use that park. So thanks for your comments and for the gentleman on the phone. I much appreciated it. And appreciate your group. Are there other commissioner comments? Dan?
Yeah, you changed the topic completely. You mentioned that you're gonna provide more detailed analysis at the next meeting, which I'm very much looking forward to. But I'm wondering, I remember that there was another survey done a long time ago that covers some of the same topics. Is there a plan, or is it possible to do like some longitudinal analysis to show if things change, if there's some issues that are still gonna show up? Between those two are the questions.
And the answer to that is yes. So there was a similar survey that used actually some of the kind of similar methodology and questions. And I believe that was back in 2022. So that is part of what we'll bring back to the commissions next month is kind of that, like you said, that longitudinal analysis. Thanks for bringing that up.
I guess I just had a question, in reference to the survey as well. I didn't realize that, the Burgess Libraries was previously built in the fifties. And I assume that, you know, minor improvements since, but it's kind of been the same. Have there been discussions on updating it to be a more modern facilities? Yeah.
Yeah.
Parks and Recreation, sorry.
We were expecting that question from library commissioners. Yeah, the current facility, I'll just sit in response to your question, was first built in like 1957 or thereabouts. And it was significantly expanded about 7-8 years later. And then another major expansion in the 1990s. So the last kind of major update to that facility was so 1990.
1991, 92, because that's when I started working. It's my first job.
And may I add that in between 2014 and 2017, there were significant studies that were undertaken on the condition of the library and the facilities, whether it was meeting the needs of the community. And there was an offer by a local philanthropist to fund a new library, which fell apart. And the priority was given to completing Bellhaven, which has now been completed. So yes, this is something that the Library Commission is looking at again and to pick up the baton where it was put down when the pandemic happened and when the other project took priority. Fair enough?
Yeah, I know that there's actually an ad hoc committee focused on just library in the future, not necessarily facilities, but just how library use is changing and does our library really fit that at this point?
And when we get to a future agenda item, you might hear more. I have a question about the survey results. But first of all, the PowerPoint, is it possible to email that around to commissioners? I'm not sure. If you're gonna
Yes,
packet. That would
yeah,
be really
it
nice.
wasn't in the packet because we didn't have it together soon enough by last Thursday, but it will go out in the minutes because it was part of the meeting. And yes, it is possible to email it out.
That would be great.
Yeah, it's fresh.
Yeah.
And I think related to Commissioner Yule's comment about spreadsheets, I think it would be awesome if this is public data to have access to spreadsheets. And I don't know if that is possible or desirable, but it is difficult to review everything carefully in a PDF form, even if it's all out there, especially with the longitudinal analysis, if it's possible to post on the public website, and downloadable spreadsheet format of everyone, because there's so much public comment, right? And it's nice to read through it all, but there are also ways to maybe explore a little more with spreadsheet and other than that. But
Yeah, I think actually that is possible, and that's part of the work that we'll be doing to kind of further sort of prepare the study for that deeper analysis. The survey just closed May 18th, so but we wanted to give you at least a preview to get it started and to get some feedback like that as we're working on those deeper dives.
okay, any other commissioner comments or discussion? Right, and I think next is item D1,
Library and Community Services Department statistics and recent activities. We don't have a presentation, it looks like, on this, so Ashley, do we have a public comment on that information item?
We do have public comment. Carol and David.
Hello, my name is Carol Hewitt, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer and the Director of Human Resources for Team Sheepman, also known as Mount Silva's Board, which operates the Bellhaven Pool and the Burgess Pool. I'm here today to employ the commission to discuss and to present a recommendation to City Council that it provide funding for the Bellhaven Pool as a part of its discussions relating to the city budget. The Bellhaven Pool was built for the community that has long been denied access to community services and facilities. The pool and facility are beautiful. The city's goal is to provide these facilities and services to the community. However, the city has now completed the physical project and dropped the operations of the facility and programming on us as an outside contractor to finance. This neighborhood deserves a pool that they can access when they want to. However, the simple finances of an outside operator keeping such a facility open with or without revenue is untenable and unrealistic. We were asked to take this on and we did so, hoping that we could generate enough revenue through both Burgess and Bellhaven to at least break even. This is not possible, given the visitors that we have at the pool. The city has washed their hands of this problem and refuses to give any funding to help make this a financially viable operation, even with the support of Burgess Pool. They believe that they have built the facility and now they can just walk away and leave it as someone else's issue to solve. The city is doing a great disservice to the Bellhaven community while trying to appear that it's providing a pool facility in their neighborhood. The simple dynamics of this neighborhood, its size and its accessibility to those outside the community make Bellhaven truly a neighborhood pool that will never rise to the levels of usage that are seen at Burgess facility. And that should be okay. The city should be subsidizing that location so that it can remain open when the community wants to use it. The Burgess Pool community is now sacrificing hours of operation along with Bellhaven to further try to offset our losses as a company so that we will remain operators. Plans are always there to be open the full required 63 hours at Bellhaven throughout the summer. But should we be required to continue those hours in the off season without any financial assistance from the city, the Burgess facility will face further closures in order for us to remain solvent. We are currently facing a loss in the city of Menlo Park operations of $221,000. We had a loss from Menlo Park operations in 2024 of $64,000. The city council has refused to help us in any way. We have poured our heart and soul into developing a world-class aquatics program in the city of Menlo Park for the past 20 years, always with the goal of creating programming that serves the community. We can no longer do this due to finances and restrictions within our contract with the city, which gives us no flexibility other than cutting our hours at Burgess to offset the city aquatics as a whole. The city of Menlo Park has a $1 million budget surplus according to the Almanac. I'm encouraging you to delve into the usage of this money and how it can be used to support the Bellhaven community and their future aquatics programming, not to mention the full aquatic services of the entire city. Time is of the essence. Thank you.
Thank you. Judith Schwartz.
Hello, as I trip myself. Sorry about that. Aside from being clumsy, I'm a master swimmer, and so I come to Burgess at least 5 times a week. And I am someone who was a commissioner on the Palo Alto Utility Advisory Commission. So I know how important it is what you guys do and how thankless it is sometimes when you're trying to influence what happens in the city. So I wanted to come and speak to the issue. I professionally come out of a world where I did a lot of policy work and community outreach and working on low income energy issues and community solar. And so the population and the challenges that you guys are dealing with at Bellhaven are very familiar to me. I also came out of the museum where a lot of what happens is you often get, somebody builds this wonderful institution and a new building and all this new exhibit space, and then doesn't get an endowment to be able to cover the program. So I think, that's one of the challenges that Carol pointed out, is that it's not enough to build the building, you've got to support the programs. And I think that I just want to put something else in context. So I've been a master swimmer since the 80s, and I've been at Rinconada, I've swum with 5 different teams. You happen to have in Tim the coach who cares more about the community than any other team I've ever swum with. Okay, that this group really does do more to try and help people than I've seen any place else. Okay, and I think it's not a question of lack of will or interest, but the kind of programming and the kind of outreach you have to do to make a community like Bellhaven really embrace and take care of this phenomenal facility that you've given them. It's fantastic. I went over there the other day, but I have to tell you, it took me an hour to get there from Palo Alto at 6 o'clock, to get there for a 6 o'clock meeting, and 10 minutes to get home. Okay, so the idea that you have a geographic challenge that you don't have here, okay? So you're not dealing with apples and apples, you're dealing with apples and kumquats, okay? Because you have a facility here that is oversubscribed, that people love, that is wonderful, that is doing so much for the community. And you have an opportunity at Bellhaven to do something for people who have been underserved, but it can't work on the same economics. And to cannibalize your great program to try and support something that needs a different kind of outreach and a different kind of support and a different kind of audience development is, I think, short-sighted. And if you can help the city council to see that these are well-intentioned people who are trying to do a great job, but it needs to be supported, okay? And so I think it should be supported, and I think you'll also find that people who are part of the masters team, we have a lot of skills, and we'll do a lot to help support it, because we believe in what we're doing. We think swimming is wonderful, and we think community centers are wonderful, and we'll do a lot to help. But I think the recognition is that it can't be funded out of the swimming revenues out of Burgess. It just isn't really practical when you're listening. So, no, we will help you.
Thank you for the comment.
Juliana Barrow. Barrow, sorry.
Hi, I came here to listen to the meeting, but to inspire to speak and share my experience. I came here with my 2 kids. They are both in the swim team at PASA. I'm in this pool pretty much every day because manage my kids. In the past, I did swim in the program. And recently, I found out through my community, through my friends and other parents, all the issues that pool is facing. Some that's impacting us directly. It's the shorter hours. But for me, when I started to learn more about the issue, I was super frustrated to hear that the team shipper is actually losing money with this pool, because it's an amazing program. I think there's so much happiness around this program. As I see my kids, I see the community. For me, it's my happy place. And when I think it would go away, because it's just not sustainable, I think any business that's not making money, it's not sustainable, right? It's frustrating. So I'm here to ask if the city can support the Bellhaven pool with more, basically helping whatever is like taking less of the revenue share, basically, helping to finance the Bellhaven pool. I read some of the comments that for me didn't make any sense. I think we all have to be, financial aware, educated to understand that pool cannot survive, like any facility cannot survive if there's not enough revenue coming in. That is the case. So I'd like to help if there's any way, but I'm just here to express, as a parent, as a user, how important for us is to have the pool open. And obviously, having Bellhaven open, it's an amazing thing for Menlo Park. We need to support all the community, not just Burgess. But we need to support. Thank you.
Hi everyone,
I'm also here to talk about the pool. I know nothing about how to run a pool, how to run a city. I'm not even a master swimmer. But I am I'm coming to the pool roughly 17 times a week. My kids are swimming, I'm swimming, I'm going to the clinics. I enjoy this place a lot. I think this like, for me, if I had to point to one place which is like a real old school community, it's the Burgess pool. I cannot really give an advice how to run the pool, how to run the city, but I spoke with dozens of people just in the last 48 hours about this situation. If anything, all of us just want more hours in the Burgess pool. You have to see the look on people's faces every time when daylight saving starts and they realize that, oh no, Saturday and Sundays, they're gonna close the pool at 4 and not 5, doesn't work for all people. So cutting down 7 to 8, and I think between 1 to 3, I don't remember the exact hours, it's kind of devastating. Again, I spoke with dozens of people, they are very upset. I want to urge the city to meet Mr. Shipper, work out some sort of a solution. This is really destroying a lot of value in the Burgess Park, which is, I learned from the survey, is like the most visited, most valuable place in this beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments for item D1, department updates with statistics? Okay, back to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. With that, public comment is closed, and we will open this item D1 for commission discussion.
Yeah, maybe just to start talking about the issues that are brought up by speakers today. Thank you all for speaking on it. This has actually been something that we've been discussing for many meetings now. Tim actually gave a presentation to our commission, I believe, 2 or 3 sessions ago, so I think we're well aware. And of course, we've been all following the news where, you know, hours at Burgess have been impacted. I guess speaking personally, I also agree. I think the pool program is kind of a visual of Parks and Recreation that we offer at Menlo Park. I have 2 young children. I hope to enroll them as, you know, eventually master swimmers, as you said. So I'm honestly, I'm so disappointed that the relationship between Team Sheeper and the city has deteriorated to this point where, you know, we're cutting hours. And I just want to remind folks that Parks and Recreation Commission is just an advisory body. What we can do is, again, express our opinion like we have in the past of what we would like to happen. But that's kind of the limit of our power. But I think it's helpful to kind of have that discussion again amongst commissioners to once again give our recommendations, maybe a motion to express what we would like to happen and see this issue resolved positively.
Yeah, I'd like to add that as well, that we have to talk about pool in the commission. You know, some of us, there's a lot of actually new members on the Parks and Rec Commission. So we're trying to get traction here and we're going to discuss this issue and, you know, hopefully make a recommendation to council, which is the best we can do, but I want to let you all know that we hear you and we're with you. And I just want to say, I said before that Burgess is a great facility, and just because of Ken Sheeper and his organization being giving service to Menlo Park for 20 years. And to say in full disclosure, up until about 10 years ago, I was swimming with Tim on Matthew's program myself. Till I had the whole back surgeries. He's just a great resource, and we don't want to lose that in the city. And then, you know, the facility basically East Menlo is just, we really have to adapt to the community, how the community uses that pool. And you can't just say, okay, we're gonna have holistic programs and then just forget about it. We really have to adapt to what the community needs. They might use the pool differently than the pool over here in Burgess. So we really need to keep an eye on that. And Thanks for the community feedback, that's really most important, and, just personally, and, I will stay engaged with you, and so will the other Parks and Rec commissioners. You, John, would you like?
Yeah, if there's no other
Right.
action requirements. I just wanted to reiterate some information from earlier in the presentation on the budget, because I think I've heard a couple of the comments were about related to the budget. So just as a reminder, the city council, which is the decision-making body about budgetary matters, they are holding a budget workshop tomorrow at 5:30 PM in city council chambers. And then on Tuesday, June 10th, they are holding a public hearing about the budget. That also, I think it's at 6 o'clock in the city council chambers, Tuesday, June 10th. And then they are scheduled to adopt the budget on Tuesday, June 24th. Again, about 6 PM in city council chambers. City council always welcomes and encourages public comments. They really like to hear directly from members of the community. They also really value the commission's input, which I believe the PRC has already conveyed that. So I just wanted to share those dates again, because it did seem like there was some interest in knowing what those opportunities are coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we have no further discussion on information item D1, we can move on to the commissioner reports. And would the library commission's ad hoc subcommittee like to make a report on the recent activity? I don't think I saw anything in the agenda packet. Commissioner West, project or working plan.
Yeah, I'll give a quick update. The ad hoc committee continues to review, the needs of the community in terms of library services and how that relates to facilities, programs, everything. We'll be incorporating the budget information and, work with, the other staff on the, survey as well. That would be good. Our goal is to finish with some focus groups and maybe a focus survey end of June, and over the summer months, pull this together as a summary report and share that, with the overall library commission and also city council towards fall.
Is there any further discussion with the library commission? I should mention that one thing I dropped the ball on, but I was gonna work with Rose on the statistic database and I did not. So I don't know if it would be possible I could get on that, or Carol or one of you wants to pick that up. I opened the conversation with Rose, but I did not follow through.
Yeah, we can pick that up in the ad hoc committee. I think that's one of the open items, so.
Yeah, and I'll.
To use for benchmarking against.
Yeah, because we had.
Libraries outside the Bay Area.
Okay, I could probably share the thoughts I had with Rose directly, if one of you want to get in touch with her, I'll say one of you will be in contact with her.
Well, why don't maybe you and I can talk, what your thoughts were, and then we can.
Yeah.
Leverage.
Okay. Would the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee like to make a report on their recent activities?
Yeah, one thing I could quickly mention, last time we discussed, the Parks and Recreation Commission discussed, kicking off a ad hoc committee to discuss and plan a event in conjunction with the city. It would be like a 5K run walk, and the target date that's tentative right now that we're considering is spring of next year, so 2026. Members of the ad hoc committee are Commissioner Dawkins and Commissioner Van Buren. Things are, still pretty tentative and we're kind of just high level right now, but we'd love to have city involvement and do more city discussion about how we can kind of make this event actually happen. So thanks for all your help.
Any further discussion? Yes.
I was just gonna add, I think, with some of the discussion that is centered around Federal Bayfront Park, I know we had plans for it to kind of, the force to kind of sweep across the city, but I don't know how possible would it be to like even more of like a Bayfront Park even into 5K routing or something of that nature, but if we can, they're working on replanting all the native plants and stuff and sprucing it up, so whatever we can do to feature that.
Interestingly, Tricia and I were talking, there are already a couple of runs that are scheduled for Bedwell Bayfront Park. I think one is like a cross-country meet, and I'm not sure what the other one is.
One's a fundraiser.
One is a fundraiser, so other people are fighting their style. But there may be opportunities to collaborate or kind of together with one of those groups, so they're gonna relate into that. Awesome.
Just to confirm though, the city staff has been in contact with the ad hoc committee. And I think we did kind of zero in on like that spring of next year timeframe was pretty good. And we actually were independently working on a concept of like some kind of 5K fun run or run walk. So it all dovetails really nicely, and I'm really looking forward to making something like that happen. And I think we had talked about it maybe being in the elevated neighborhood. And maybe using the pedestrian overcrossing that goes over the Bayfront Expressway, Highway 84, because it's really cool and goes to Bedwell Bayfront Park. So yeah, very exciting concept that we're grateful that the commission brought it up, because we were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and I guess just to provide just a little bit more detail, I think overall focus is to kind of celebrate Menlo Park. Obviously, the Bellhaven Community Campus will be kind of a staging location for maybe this initial event. And then secondary goal is to provide scholarship funds to the Youth Advisory Commission, which we also help and support. So think of that as like, hey, if I'm signing up for this race, not only does that help me with wellness and so on, but some of the proceeds can help our Menlo Park graduates in their continuing education, in continuing higher education. So it's win-win for the entire community. So, yeah.
Okay, would any commissioner like to make a short report out on items of interest to the entire commission?
From the new commissioners.
Not right now.
Well, so I'll
I think you could like, you probably picked up.
throw it out there. I'll throw it out there on the individual commissioner reports, because I know we have a couple of new commissioners here today, and during roll call, there wasn't really an opportunity for folks to introduce themselves, so not to put people on the spot, but it does seem like this would be an opportunity maybe to talk a little bit about what drew you to the commission, anything of that nature.
Okay, I will give each new commissioner opportunity on recording to say something, and then I encourage you that the is off, we will also welcome you and socialize with you. So Commissioner Yule, would you like to make any comment?
Sure. Hello, my name is Dan Yule. I'm fairly new to Menlo Park. And I've been to the 8th library my whole life. My mom worked there from the time I was born until I was about 5. I later worked at the public library where I grew up. My grandma worked at the public library where I grew up. So I spent a lot of time in the library. It's very important to me, and I'm excited for getting involved.
Great. Commissioner, is it Shilpa?
Yes, thank you for letting us join. I'm excited to be a part of this. I am also newer to Menlo Park. It's been about a year, but avid park goer and just somebody who really enjoys being a part of the community, and hoping to, bring, some sort of hopefully advocate for some groups that may not be advocated for. Kind of fine.
Okay, finally, Commissioner Young Chun.
No, hi, I think I'm also a very new resident to Menlo Park. Moved there about 5 years ago, and I had my 2 very minor kids during those 5 years, and we were library gymnastic center and those playgrounds almost every day and every weekend. So I'm very lucky, you're a very friendly user to, those cities, wonderful facilities and resources, and hopeful to make some contributions, by myself and professionally. I'm California licensed landscape architect and worked on a few, like, parks, trails and the public transportation projects, yeah. So I'm very excited and happy to meet everyone in person here today, yeah.
Okay, so I think at 7:50, the meeting is.
Yeah, I know.